All right, you guys, in this video, we're going to talk about the fundamental theorem of calculus, which is basically we are going to evaluate definite integrals, okay? So we've done this a little bit in the earlier sections just to kind of show you, but we're going to practice it here. So when we integrate with bounds, the definite integral, okay, so we're going to have bounds, so we're going to go from a to b. We're going to integrate our derivative to get our function. You do not need to use a plus c, because if you had a plus c here and a plus c here, the minus would cancel out the c's, so you do not need a plus c. Okay, so I went ahead and I did this just because it was taking so much time. It's pretty easy to do, so I'm going to talk you through it a little bit, but then I really think you can just practice on your own. At the end, we're going to do the second fundamental theorem of calculus, which is huge, probably one of the most important theorems in calculus, so we need to address that. But for these, I just sort of went ahead and I integrated, so you're just going to integrate as normal. So raise it up by 1. Divide by the new power, up by 1, divide by the new power. So I'm going to go from -1 to 2, and then you're just going to plug in. Okay, so this is plugging in the 2, subtracting. So it's the top bound minus the lower bound. So this is your top bound minus the lower bound, and then I just went ahead and I calculated it. Okay, same thing here. 6x cubed over 3, 3x squared over 2. Plugged in my bound. So this is plugging in the 2. This is plugging in the 1. As you can leave it like this. You cannot leave it like this. Okay, so depending on, I think I'm missing a minus here, depending on what the problem is or where it falls on the AP exam, obviously on a multiple choice, you're going to have to come down to the answer, but on an FRQ, absolutely you can leave it like this if you wanted to, okay? For here, we've got, again, raise it up by 1, divide by the new power, plugging in the 4, so this is all plugging in the 4. I have to plug it here minus this, and then subtract plugging in the 1. So that's plugging in the 1, and we get that, okay? If we move on down here, we've got, I rewrote this to x to the -2. So this was x to the -2. So when we raise it up by 1, we get x to the -1 divided by -1. So this minus flipped to a positive, and then it's 1 over x. Okay, again, plugging in the top bound, plugging in the bottom bound, and you get -2. Here we've got 2x plus sine of x after we integrate. Plug in, is you have to, you cannot leave this. So this is the one thing you have to be careful about. You must evaluate trig functions. Okay, so I'm going to write that. So you must evaluate trig values. Okay, you cannot leave it as the sine of pi. You have to show that you understand that the sine of pi is 0. So you do need to evaluate that, okay? And in here, we've got not much you could do here if you didn't have a calculator. I went ahead and I just plugged this in the calculator because of the ln of 5. But remember, when you integrate an exponential function, you're dividing by the ln of the base. Okay, so I got that. All right, so here, so these are great questions. These are AP style questions. This is what they like to ask you to do, to sort of show you have some understanding, and then the mechanical part of it is the easy part of this. Okay, so they're asking you to find the area. Now remember, the area is the integral of the function from this x value to this x value. So we can put it into a definite integral. Okay, so this is the exact area. This is what we did using the limit process. First we did the Riemann sums. Okay, to approximate the area where we drew rectangles so we could either do left or right. We had an over-under estimate. Then we went ahead and we did the summation with the limit process, and that was the exact area. Well, this also is the exact area. Okay, so obviously this is much easier than the limit process, right? So we're going to integrate from 1 to 2 of the function. So again, I rewrote it. Raise it up by 1, divide by the new power, plug in your bounds. So this represents the area under the curve from 1 to 2 of the area between the curve and the x-axis. All right, so just another example. Okay, we're finding the area under the curve from 0 to pi between the curve, which is this, and the x-axis. Okay, so I need to put this into an integral, so it's going to go from 0 to pi. My function, raise it up by 1, divide by the new power. Integral of sine is negative cosine. Plug in my bounds, and I get 6.934. All right, next one, same idea. The only difference is they're not giving us the graph, and they're not explicitly giving us the bounds. So what I would do maybe for something like this is sort of just in your head, get a sketch to understand what it is that you are actually looking for. So if we plugged in 0, you're going to get 0. If you plugged in 1, you're going to get 7. And if you plugged in 2, it's going to be way up here. So it's like that. So that's the right side of the curve. Like that. And then if I plugged in -1, it's going to basically do the same thing like this. All right, so let's see what happens now. So we want to find the area between the curve, the line x equals 2. So let me draw that in here. It'd be like that. The line y equals 0, which is, draw it in pink, which is there, and the curve. All right, so this is the area that we're looking for. So now let's come up with an integral that represents that. So we're going to go from 0 to 2. So it's over the x-axis. So 0 to 2, the area underneath the curve, x cubed plus 6x. Okay, again, integrate it, plug in the bounds. We get 16. All right, next thing is average value. So this is a formula you do need to memorize. It's very easy, okay? Just in terms of the formula part of it. Sometimes they'll just ask you, what is the average value of the function? You just plug it in. So it's always going to be over an interval. So from a to b, we're literally just plugging in b minus a, integrate from a to b of the function. So what does it actually represent? So if you look at my curve here, we have area under the curve would be like all of that, right? That would be the area under the curve. Okay, what the average value is, it's the height. So in this case, they're showing us that the average value, the height is right here. So it's the height of the rectangle at which the area of that rectangle equals the area under the curve. So this would fluctuate, sort of. So it's what height, at what height here? Is it up here? Is it down here? What height of this rectangle makes the area of the rectangle, so the rectangle's here, be equal to the area under the curve? Okay, so if you look at the formula here, what I did was I brought this up to this side, so sort of cross-multiplied it up here. So b minus a times the average value equals the area under the curve. Well, if we were to look at this geometrically, right, this is a rectangle, so the base of the rectangle is b minus a, and then the height, we'll just call the average value. So base times height is equal to the area under the curve. All right, so find the average value. So again, straightforward, it's going to be b minus a, so 4 minus 1, 1 over b minus a, integral from 1 to 4 of your function. Go ahead and integrate it, plug in your bounds. Same thing here. Okay, find the average value. So it's 1 over pi over 2 minus 0. This becomes 2 over pi when you flip it. And then integrate in here, plug in the bounds, and we get 2 over pi. You want to make sure that this is going to the whole thing. Okay, so when you're integrating and plugging in your bounds, keep it on the outside, like here. So it's on the outside, and then you have the upper minus the lower. It's on the outside, upper minus the lower. All right, next thing is the second fundamental theorem of calculus. So this one is huge, okay? It's actually very easy to apply, so please pay attention. Okay, there's no reason that you don't understand this one. You're taking the derivative of an integral, and just like we spoke about when we did differential equations, where we had like dy over dx is equal to, let's say, x squared. Remember, we separated the variables to get dy equals x squared dx. Then to undo the derivative, we took the integral of both sides and we solved it. Well, now we're doing the opposite. We're taking the derivative of an integral. The short story is when you take the derivative of an integral, it basically just cancels out. So it's like this cancels with this. You take this and you drop it into that. I mean, that's the short version of it. I want to kind of show you why. There's a few caveats to it as we work through this. But so for example, let's say that I wanted to take the derivative of this integral from 8 to x of t cubed. Well, we could do it, okay? Now there's a few problems here that I would say. When you integrate something, you're going to be in terms of t, which is why we can't take the derivative of it, which is why we need our bound. So we plug in, we get x's. Okay, so but let's do it. So you're going to integrate. So up by 1 divided by the new power from 8 to x. So I plug in. So you get x to the 4th over 4 minus 8 to the 4 over 4. So it asks us to take the derivative of that integral. So this is the integral part of it. Now I'm going to derive it. So when I derive this, write this in. So dx of that, we're going to get 4x cubed over 4 minus 0, because the derivative of a constant goes to 0, and this becomes x cubed. If we follow the theorem said to just, if you're taking the derivative of an integral, take the x, replace it, the t with it, and that's your answer. It is. Now there is a caveat to it, okay? You have to drop in the top bound and then multiply it by the derivative of the upper bound. So it's still x cubed, which is why we don't have to worry about the bottom bound, okay? For the College Board and for the AP exam, I have never seen it where it's anything other than a constant. So even though there is a second part to this, we don't have to worry about it because the derivative of the bottom bound is always going to go to 0 because it is a constant, okay? All right, so let's look at this. So you are just first this is only when you're taking the derivative of an integral. I once saw a question on the AP exam, and it was something like this. 0 to x, let's say sine of t dt. Just because you have, let's say, an x and a t does not mean that you are applying the second fundamental theorem of calculus, because it didn't ask us for a derivative. You just had to evaluate this. Integral of sine is what? Negative cosine? So negative cosine of t, and you're going from 0 to x, and you literally just plug in those bounds. That is different than this. d dx, 0 to x, sine of t dt. This is actually equal to the sine of x, because you're taking the derivative of an integral, you just drop it in. And then, of course, we times it by the 1. All right, so let's look at these examples here. So it's the derivative, so this comes out. Everything else stays the same. So it's x squared plus 1, and then I'm going to times it by 1. So we get x squared plus 1. All right, find the derivative. This is another way that they ask it. Okay, again, this is common here. But oftentimes on the AP exam, the multiple choice, they ask it like this. They define the function as big F, and they're asking you to find the derivative of that. So they want the derivative of this. So they're asking d dx pi over 2 x cubed cosine of t dt. Okay, so that's what they're asking you to do. So I can simply take this out. So it's cosine of x cubed, but you're going to multiply it by the derivative of the top to get 3x squared. Okay, so our final answer is 3x squared times cosine of x cubed. So you're not finding the integral of cosine. Okay, so whenever it's the second fundamental theorem, you're taking the top bound, plugging it in for the t, and then deriving. All right, same thing. You want to find the derivative, so we're doing the derivative. So d dx, the integral from 2 to x squared, and then 1 over t cubed dt. So I'm going to take this out, replace it with the x squared. So we're going to get 1 over x to the 6th power, because it's x squared cubed. So x squared cubed is x to the 6th power. But then I have to multiply it by the derivative of this bound, which is 2x. So we're going to get 2x over x to the 6th, which is 2 over x to the 5th power. All right, and then the last one, we have cosine of t to the 4th. We're finding the derivative of it, so it's d dx, 0 to 2x, cosine of t to the 4th dt. This comes out, and I'm just going to replace it. So we're going to get cosine of 2x to the 4th, but then I'm going to multiply it by the 2. So my final answer is going to be, so it's 2 cosine 2 to the 4th, which is 16, so 16x to the 4th power.